And I appreciate you taking the time to get on here, man.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm gonna tell you a little bit about me and myself. My company is called Recruit University,
Hmm.
and what we do is we help high school students, athletes, and their parents educate them on the process of getting recruited to play sports in high school. And we work with kids from all sports, not just football. But my background is from a small town in Maryland. We just weren't getting any exposure there, and I was scouting. I was a coach over there and I was scouting high school players. And I'm like, why aren't these guys getting recruited? So
Yeah,
then I was over the bridge working with coaches from like the Matha and other places.
yeah,
And they told me, their blueprint. And I just kind of put it all together and started
right.
helping kids. And more people started to ask for help. So then Recruit University was born.
What area in Maryland?
The Eastern Shore of Maryland, called
Okay.
Ocean City, Maryland.
Yeah, I know where that is. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
further away. I went to University of Maryland.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
So
I
you,
know.
you, you visited down Ocean City?
Yeah, I went there with a couple of my buddies during Memorial Day weekend. I like it. It's just like you said, it's so far away for people to get to. It's just it's the same thing as my hometown. So I definitely see where you're coming from, and I really I value people that are always looking to find a way to help somebody. It's not just about yourself. It's really about the skill sets that you manifest, the skill sets that you develop to bring to the table and help somebody else, advance their careers. Because not everybody's going to be an athlete. I'm just pertaining to this world. Not everybody's going to be an athlete, but if you find your niche and you know how to carve that out, but at the same time you're helping people at the same time and changing their lives and altering that for the better. I mean, shoot, I'm all for it, man. So definitely good job on that.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's hard, knowledge seeking, and I was going to Baltimore and DC like almost every other weekend, man, for clinics and camps and
Shit,
stuff
you're
like
driving
that.
a lot, man. You're driving.
I did a lot of driving, yeah, but
I
hey, there was nothing that was going to stop me, because we had a goal. We tried to help kids,
Mhm.
get to where they need to go, so we need to put them in position.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
now I'm gonna ask you real quick. You were. I'm gonna go back to your high school days. I want you to go all the way back to the beginning because I want people that watch this um, be able to live through you a little bit because they want to go through high school, go to D1 college, and they want to go pro, right?
Yeah.
So going in high school, you played multiple sports, and they
Mhm.
called you the Flash. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I played soccer growing
Okay.
up. I was a soccer player first, and I ran track. And my mom, she would not let me play football whatsoever. She did not want me to get hurt in football, none of that. So as a, over time, I started developing my speed because I either had to play against kids that were bigger than me in soccer, and I had to learn how to get faster, or I was running against guys in track that were faster than me. So every day was constantly racing. I always had to race because I didn't want to get dusted. Like I didn't want to get embarrassed. So for me, I started getting faster, and seemed like every single day, every single year, just one day it just clicked, and I just started beating everybody. Like anybody I lined up against in high school, different high schools, I was just beating them. And eventually, I was like, look, I'm fast, man. I know I'm fast. Like I had that confidence, and my mom kind of put this nickname out there. She's like, look, your favorite character is Batman. I love Batman, but at the end of the day, you're more qualified to become the Flash because you're fast. I said, you know what? I'm going to stick with that. And before Dwayne Wade even had the nickname when he was in the Heat, I coined that name Flash, and then all my friends started calling me that, and that's been my that's the reason why I have my symbol is
Yeah,
geared toward the Flash. So that's where the premise of it comes from. Just me every single day having to compete against guys to get better, and that's how I got that. Well, that's how I coined that nickname.
that's awesome, man. And what I want people to take away from that is you played soccer, you played track, and you played football. So
Mhm.
believe it or not, there's a lot of schools and a lot of coaches out here who are not letting kids play multiple sports, even though it does help you. Do you think that soccer and track help you become a better football player?
Oh yeah, and I think the misconception now is because of college football and the NFL. They're trying to squeeze it all together as far as preparation. They think that football has to be a year-round thing. You have to always do football to become a better football player. Not at all. And I think soccer helped me with my footwork and my coordination, and track helped me to get faster and more explosive. I was a big weight room guy, but that all stemmed from me constantly being on my feet. Always constantly getting hit in soccer and having to stabilize my knee to make sure it was strong, and running track had to be explosive out the blocks, had to make sure I had the endurance muscle wise to be able to run a 400 or run a 4x8 or even a mile. I got it put in at one point. So those things definitely helped me as far as when it came to the weight room. And then as far as the technical stuff, I was able to pick up a lot. I played receiver, but I was able to play defensive back. And I think that's what helped me out because it wasn't hard. It wasn't difficult. I wasn't stiff. I was fluid because of soccer. And that allowed me to be able to play multiple positions in football. But there's a misconception there that you always have to be doing football. Kids are young. They're trying to figure it out themselves. And if you don't give them that opportunity, eventually they're going to get hit with the mundane. They're going to get hit with, man, I'm tired of doing this routine day in and day out. I don't want to do other sports. And that's the thing that they got to kind of break away from. You'll get those kids back in the spring later on, but let them have fun with their high school. Let them play soccer, let them play basketball, let them play baseball, if they choose to. And just see where it goes. If they become a great athlete, there's nothing wrong with them playing two sports. That's why there's sports in different seasons throughout the year, so they get that opportunity to do that. So I would say, don't pigeonhole the kids. Allow them to do it.
Exactly, exactly. And people at home listening, this is from a Division I college football player. He made it to NFL. I think he knows what he's talking about. I'm glad you said that. You said it word for word exactly what I say all the time about the seasons. This season is football season. The next season you might take off and train a little bit, and then you got another season to play something else. So yeah, let the kids play, man. Let them be kids. So you were a wide receiver, right? But you went to the NFL as a DB.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so you got recruited. You got offers from several schools. Were you offered as a wide receiver, or were you an athlete? Were you open to changing positions?
At first, I was not. I was strictly a receiver. We had some dogs at corner and safety. I didn't even, if I were to go to that side of the ball, I wouldn't be able to sniff it because they were just that good. We had guys that went to Ole Miss. I had a guy that went to Louisville, and we had guys that just went to different places, Temple. So we had guys that were athletes, man, and those guys could have went to the league. Just injuries prevented that. But I was strictly a receiver. I had my first offer I got was from North Carolina, and then after that was like Boston. I had a lot of offers. I think I had close to 40 offers, and only one
Wow.
of them was to play defensive back, and that was safety, and that was at the University of Indiana. And I remember the coach coming to my house and him introducing that idea to me, and I was like, yeah, "Nah, I'm not doing that." And after a while, once I got to the University of Maryland, I had a harder time understanding and grasping the playbook because it was an NFL style playbook. It was Coach Friedgen's playbook, and people that don't know Ralph Friedgen, he was in the NFL and he coached for the San Diego Chargers. And I think it was 1993 or 94 when they went to the Super Bowl. He took that team there as the only Super Bowl they went to, and he brought that same playbook to Maryland. The problem was I never knew NFL terminology. I didn't know how to line up. I just knew my quarterback tell me, "Hey, look, you got to line up left, and you got to run a fade. You run a slant. I'll throw it to you." I just catch it and score touchdowns. So for me, the terminology and understanding that is what kind. I don't want to say derailed, but it slowed me down in my development. Instead of me going out there and playing like a 4-3, and now I'm playing as a 4-5. Because I'm thinking more than I'm actually playing football. And after a while, I kind of, I want to say lost the love for the game, but I was getting homesick and then I was getting deterred because I'm just like, man, I'm not getting on the field. So then my defensive coordinator said, look, man, you got all the tools to play defensive back. You're a bigger defensive back than you are a receiver. You can play both if you want, but I prefer you to be on my side of the ball. And I said, you know what, let me go ahead and do it. And it was easier to pick up because it was from the basics. That's where they taught it. They taught it from a guy that never knew it before. And it made it a lot easier, it made it more enjoyable, as far as football is concerned. But, just going back to your question, yeah, I wasn't an athlete. I was an athlete, but I wasn't considered an athlete. I was considered a receiver.
Okay. And they had some dogs over at Maryland. You had Darius Hayward Bay there.
Yeah.
At one point, Torrey Smith came along.
Yep.
What made you want to go to Maryland? Like, what was it that it said, okay, I'm going to go to this school? Especially, you're a Florida guy. What made you leave Florida and go all the way to Maryland?
Yeah. Originally, Maryland was probably like my fifth choice. I wanted to go to, I actually committed. I had a soft commit to University of Florida, and Ron Zook was the coach at the time. Well, Ron Zook got fired, and he goes to Illinois, and he's asking me to go to Illinois too. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to Illinois. I want to stay in the state of Florida. And my only two schools really Miami and Florida. And those are the only two I was really set on. I didn't want to go to Florida State, didn't want to go to USF or UCF because they were developing programs. UCF at the time, I think they went 0-11 the year before, and I wasn't too keen on going there. And then USF was hit with a probation, so I didn't want to get myself caught into that because I wouldn't know what would come of it. And UF didn't happen or choose not to happen. And then Miami, I was waiting for. I kept waiting, and at the last minute, they kind of really wanted to make a push, but by that time, I was like, yeah, no. But the thing about Maryland that enticed me was the fact that, like you said, Darius Hayward Bay, he was in my signing class. We had another couple guys, Terrell Skinner, Danny Aquindo, Isaiah Williams, and myself. So we were looked upon as like this young core group of athletes playing receiver and coming in with this new class of just with the quarterback that we had. That's what kind of Coach Friesen sold and enticed me on. He's like, look, we'll have weapons, young weapons that we'll be able to use all over the field. At Maryland, we get to play in a great conference. ACC at the time
Hmm.
was probably right next to the SEC, and then
Hmm.
the Pac-12 from when I was playing from '05 to 2009. So, me just looking at that, I was like, I have to go here. SEC, I could have went to other SEC schools. I had Ole Miss, I had Auburn. I can't remember who else I had. I had a good list of them, SEC West teams. So at the end of the day, ultimately, I was like, look, I don't want to go out west, but let me go to Maryland. One, because of what I mentioned, but also two, I had family that was there. So if I did get homesick, I could always go and see them. So it was just good the way it worked out and how the decision was made, and I wouldn't change anything.
Awesome. Yeah, that's important to think about, like they said, the family and everything like that. Because sometimes you just want to get away from home and get as far away as you can. But there's some gonna be times, like you said, you're gonna get homesick, and it's a
Yeah,
different world.
it's a big, big world. Yeah, it is when you leave your house.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't think we had huddle back when you were coming out of high school, but yeah, we were using like DSV and other things. It was hard. I used to make tapes, spend hours making tapes. It was a lot of work. But what do you think helped you attract all of these different schools? Like, how were you getting promoted? Was your coach helping you? Were your parents helping you? How did
Mhm.
the recruiting process look like for you?
So this is the thing kids got to understand. Schools aren't just going to come to you. You got to go to them. And the one thing I was taught early was, look, get a summer job, get your money up, and pay for those camps. Because if you go to those camps, those coaches are going to see you, and when they see you, they're going to offer you on the spot. They're not going to expect. They're not going to waste time. Because if they see you in person at these camps, either you're D'ing up a receiver, or you're exposing DBs, or you're throwing the ball well, or you show that you're strong as a lineman, and all those things they get to see it firsthand. So they don't need to go and look at high school film decide, oh, let me see if this guy's worth it. That's only for if they can't reach a guy. But if you're going to them and you're showing them, look, this is what I can do, they'll go to the film and know, all right, this guy's a player. Because if he's coming to our camp, for one, it lets him know he's confident in himself. Two, he's ready to sell himself. And three, he can play. So that's the thing I did. I always count how many camps I went to. And it
Wow.
was just, I went to time and time again. I was just going, anytime I saw something in the summer, we just put it on the calendar. My parents would take me, my coach would take me. I go with a couple other players. We get on, we go with either my dad or my mom, go to Central Florida. I go to Tampa. I go to Miami. I go over towards Tallahassee. I go into Georgia. Like I was going everywhere just because I knew that, like we were mentioned before, we have a small town here. We're 20 minutes outside of Jacksonville, a small town called Green Cove Springs. Even though we're a small town in a big city, UF is an hour away from my hometown, but UF don't even come to my school. They weren't coming to my school until I started going to camps. I started doing those things to get noticed, and all of a sudden, bam, Ron Zook he's knocking on my math teacher's door, like, hey, look, I need to talk to Nolan. And I need to see where his mind is. I want to get him to my school. And that's how it really, sorry about that. That's how it really materializes. So you have to go out there and be seen. You can't, it's so much nowadays of entitlement. A kid
Hmm.
feels like, well, because I played well, coaches need to come in and find me. No, these coaches can find you right down the street. So what separates you from that other guy that is convenient for them to take time out their day to just take 10 minutes to go and see him, talk to him? What makes them say, look, I need to get on a flight, come and see this kid and talk to him? So it's really about just doing that, selling yourself, making your own tapes. I didn't have Huddle, so I was
Hmm.
making my own VHS tapes with my dad and going over games, having to rewind and make
Oh
sure
my
it's
God.
when you're recording, and then copying a bunch of tapes, and then shoot, just sending those things out. That's what we did, and that's what ended up helping me get more exposure and get accolades. Those things I wouldn't have got if we didn't do those things. I would just sit around and just twiddling my thumbs waiting for a team to come in and contact me.
Exactly, man. 100%. We were on the same page for sure. Because I had to do that too when I was at the high school. We had this CD burner that had like five or six DVDs on it. So I
Yeah,
would make a tape, spend hours making one, and they would just burn a bunch of copies. And it was a lot. And I did the VHS boy too, because we had old VHS tapes because our high school
yeah,
wasn't caught up with the times. But
yeah. At least
just showing our age.
You had DVDs. I had VHSs, man. VHS.
Shoot, showing our age for sure. Um,
Exactly.
so by your senior year, you were ready to ball out a senior year in college, but you broke your leg, and you were having hopes of going pro. Like, what was your mindset at that point?
My mindset was I was at peace. Honestly, going into my senior year, I knew I did everything from my junior year, my off season, going to my junior year camp. I did everything I was supposed to do to prepare for my senior year because I knew my draft grade my senior year was an early second round pick, and I had a chance to become a late first round. I could have been higher. I knew if I just played my season out, I didn't have to do anything crazy spectacular because I was already on the Thorpe watch list, already a preseason All ACC guy. So having those things coming in when I only shoot, I think I only played maybe 6 games at corner my junior year,
Mhm.
and maybe one my sophomore year, one or two my sophomore year. So having that short amount of games and amassing that type of somewhat notoriety at the time, I was like, look, all I got to do is just play consistently my senior year. And going into it, I broke my leg the second game of the season, and when I did it, it was it was frustrating, but I wasn't like it's weird. I didn't feel like anything changed. Like I didn't feel like I wasn't gonna be able to go to the NFL. I didn't feel like I wasn't gonna get drafted. Like I still knew those things. It didn't even matter. And I had surgery that night.
Mhm.
So it was one of those things where I didn't panic. I wasn't down in the dumps. I was one of those where look, whenever I'm able to move my leg, whenever I'm able to wiggle my toes and all that stuff, whenever I figure out how to go to the bathroom by myself, how to get out of bed without being in pain, I'll be fine. And that's exactly what it was. It was like a foreshadowing that night on the field of what I needed to do. And it's just a calming feeling. Like I said, I didn't get out of whack. I didn't get down on myself. I just continued to show up and work hard because I knew what I already was. And I knew those scouts knew that. They knew my potential. They knew the type of player I was. And it ended up working out because at the end of the day, I got drafted in the fifth round, which to
Mhm.
me is without really playing your senior year and still getting drafted, that means something. And I had a lot of people that were telling me I probably wasn't gonna get drafted. I probably was, done playing football and that was it for me. But one thing people didn't realize is that I broke my leg my senior year in high school as well too.
Oh wow.
And that was where I really was able to persevere through the second time. Because the first time I did it, I was in shock. I was like, yo, what's going on? And I've never had an injury like this before. And it's a lower leg injury. I'm always used to running, 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 and now I can't run. That's something that was taken from me. So going through that the first time hardened me and allowed me to overcome it the second time. Now I've overcame it the first time, but to be able to overcome it the second time in a different mindset, it was nothing to me. And I knew once I was back, once I could start running and getting my strength back, it was a wrap because I knew that shoot, I've been through it. I persevered for the second time, and now I'm just here to prove to people that I can play, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, man. You sound like you got a lot of confidence and just composure that you had about you.
Um,
Um, you mentioned before about your transition from high school to college athletically was a little bit more challenging because of the playbook.
mhm.
I want you to talk to the parents and talk to the kids out there about the transition from not just the academic side, but just the whole experience side. You were the top dog in Florida, right? Everybody knew who you were. You were probably the most popular kid on campus. Now you're going into, now you're a small fish in a big pond. So tell me about that transition.
Yeah, that one was you're talking about from high school to college, is that?
Yes. Uh huh.
So you think about it when you're in your high school, you're the man, you're the big fish, right? In
Hmm.
this small fishbowl.
Hmm.
And when you go from high school to college, you are now taken out of that fishbowl and thrown into the Atlantic Ocean, and you're swimming with sharks. So it's either you become a shark or you stay a little fish and get eaten. And I told myself, look, I gotta grow. I gotta mature. I gotta. If you really want to do this, there's no turning back. Your decision was to come to Maryland, so you got to make it work, because the one thing I didn't want to do was leave to come back home. It didn't make sense to me. So I had to do the things necessary. And one of those things, and I'm also happy too that I had older guys that were able to help me. I went to school with Vernon Davis. Vernon was in his last year before he left, DeQuell Jackson and Wesley Jefferson. Those guys, as a freshman, you wouldn't think those guys would talk to me. Like talk to me, I wouldn't think. But there were times Vernon would just come sit next to me and just talk. How you feeling, Nolan? What's going on? How's your mental? I know you're from Florida, but tell me what's going on. How can I help you out? And to me, I was just like, oh, snap! Like this is cool. And eventually he ends up he plays for the 49ers, but he comes back and he's still talking to me like we're still teammates. So that kind of bond relationship I had with him and DeQuell, and at the same time too with Sean Merriman when he just left, he gave me a ride. He gave me a couple rides back to my dorm room when I didn't even have a car. And I think he was what, fifth overall pick or something like that. And he's taking me to my dorm room. He didn't have to do that. He could look at me as like a little guy, but having those people support me from being out of state and not knowing anybody gave me more confidence to understand, look, if those guys respect me, if those guys want to help me and see me succeed, then I need to make this work. And that's what I did. If I want to get to where they are, I know there's certain things that I got to do. There's certain sacrifices that I got to make. I can't go out, I can't spend extra time at the dining hall trying to eat a bunch. I got to get into my playbook. I got to work harder, that. And those are the things that helped me out early on to be able to persevere and grow when I was at Maryland. So it's just that you go from being a big fish in a small fish bowl to all of a sudden being a small fish in a big ocean, and you really got to grow from there.
So I'm gonna ask you this because this bugs me a lot because I see, I watch shows like Last Chance U, and I see kids making mistakes over and over again, and they don't learn from other people's mistakes, right? So another player does something stupid that somebody previously the year before did, and they saw the consequences.
Yeah.
So who told you like to look at these athletes like Vernon Davis, Sean Merriman, and say, okay, I want to do what he does. I'm not gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna
Yeah.
follow their blueprint.
Yeah.
Instead of there's other athletes out there who, oh, I'm gonna party, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna do this and that. We're big time. Like, who told you you're supposed to follow these guys?
It's funny. Nobody told me. It's just, I knew what it looked like. That's all it was. I was a captain when I was on my high school team, so I knew there was a certain way I had to be, and I didn't even go out like that in high school. I don't think I went out probably once or twice, and I was very disciplined in what I was doing. I was always trying to do extra over the weekends and the off season to get ready for football, whether it was still run track, lift in my garage, go and run on my own. So I knew what it looked like already. And coming to Maryland, I got there in the summer and I saw Sean back here. And that was the first impression I ever got of Sean Merriman was I remember being in the academic center and I remember seeing him run stadium stairs. And around in Maryland, they got 36 different stairs that go all the way up. I watched him do all of them. And at 12 o'clock in the summer in Maryland is hot. I don't care where you are, where you're from. You can be from Florida, Texas. It's hot in Maryland, man. And for me to see him do that, even after he just got drafted 2 weeks ago, I saw he was still putting in the work. And I knew this was a guy that was very successful. I need to see what he's doing. I need to talk to him a little bit. Same with Vernon. Vernon was a 6th overall pick in the draft, but I saw how he practiced, how he lifted, how he worked out every single day. And I was just drawn to it. And the fact that he was drawn to me enough to talk to me about certain things and certain experiences about college and how to prepare for it, that helped me out a lot. And as well as DeQuell Jackson too. DeQuell putting me under his wing, letting me know what we need to do as Florida guys, because he was from Florida as well. So telling me, look, this is how you need to get adjusted because it's hard being all the way from Florida going to Maryland and not knowing anybody. He just showed me different things that I can do mentally, things I can get away to adjust my mind, just to help me out with the whole experience. Just gravitating towards them naturally is one of the things that really helped my whole experience at Maryland be fun.
So surrounding yourself with a certain type of individuals seemed like to be the thing to help you grow as a person.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I also saw how it looked to not do it. There were guys that would
Mhm.
go out, there were guys that would smoke weed, and eventually Coach Reason, he had enough with it. He'd kick the guys off, and you would see they were very talented. But at the same time, when they left for Maryland trying to go somewhere else, they weren't successful at all,
Mhm.
because they didn't have that discipline. They didn't have that self control. They didn't have that regimented routine where it was like, look, I'm going to get up on time. I'm going to check in for breakfast. I'm going to go to class. I'm going to make sure I'm prepared for practice. They weren't doing those things. And ultimately, it showed. And He got
Right.
rid of him. Then once they tried to go elsewhere, they it showed their undisciplinedness, and then they ended up dropping out of school or get in trouble again. And it just I was able to see what both sides looked like, and I picked the right side, and which
That's
was
that's that's great, man. That's a really good positive message. So you definitely have to be intrinsically motivated, right, to be able to want to do this.
yep.
Every kid wants to go D1, but they don't really know what D1 looks like. What was your schedule like on a day-to-day basis?
Oh man, yeah, you're right. Kids just want to see the end result. For my day to day was, obviously you go to school in high school. Are you just talking about high school? Or you talking about college?
For college?
Whew, all right. So college, I was up by 6:45 because I we had we had breakfast check at 7:30. You couldn't be there at 7:30. You had to come in at 7:20. So
Hmm.
I had to make sure that, plus I had to walk. So we couldn't drive on campus. Couldn't use scooters. Everything was walk. You had to walk everywhere. So I made sure I got up at least 6:30, 6:45 to give myself 10 minutes to walk to the diner just so my strength coach could see me. After that, I would get my breakfast, come back, probably watch ESPN or something with one of my roommates until maybe 8 o'clock. Had our first class was at 8:30 or 8 o'clock. Sorry, it was at 8:10. It was for 50 minutes. Normally, those days on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, you have about three classes you go to that are about an hour long, and then Tuesday, Thursdays are your like hour and 15-minute classes. And class ends around, let's say 1 o'clock. From 1 o'clock, you go and get some food at the diner again, and you go for team meeting. So you get ready for team meeting. I believe it was at 2:30, and from 2:30 to maybe 4 o'clock, you're in meetings. It's special teams, offense, defense, and you're going over playbook. You're going over game plans. You're probably lifting in between there if you didn't lift earlier on in the morning and you had that option. And after that, you get ready for practice. Every single practice is full pads with Coach Frieden. So you're going practice about 2 hours and 30 minutes. It would be a good day if we practice for an hour and 45. And we did that until about, maybe I'm getting out probably 7:45. And then at 7:45 to 9:30 is you have dinner and you have study hall. And depending on how many credits you had, study hall was either an hour, hour and a half, or 2 hours. So I study hall to about 9:30, and then from there you get out. You have to walk 40 minutes back to your dorm room. So by the time I get back home, it's almost like 10 o'clock at this point. 10 o'clock, 10:15, and you just do it again. You just keep doing it every single day for 5 years almost, and that's what it really is. That life is,
Right.
people don't understand that life. You have to be disciplined. You don't have time to really have for yourself. In there you got to try and find your breaks when you can, and take breaks because it can get overwhelming.
Yeah, that's what bugs me sometimes when people complain about athletes getting scholarship money. They don't really understand that it's a full-time job of what you guys do.
Yeah, they have no idea. That's why they say that. If they knew, they wouldn't be saying that.
Exactly, exactly. All right, so let's go into what you're doing now. What are
Mm.
you doing nowadays?
I'm doing a bunch of different things, man. The most recent has been my brother and I. He created this junior college program, and one of the reasons why he wanted to create it was because of his road and his journey when he was playing basketball. He was always getting. He played at FAU. He walked on, played at FAU, but it was the after part that really got him, and just really looking at his whole career of basketball and what it looked like. There weren't too many people that were trying to help him out. And he was a late bloomer in basketball. If he would have played earlier, who knows where he could have been. But that's besides the point. He was able to make it and walk on the FAU. But then after, when he was trying to become a professional and going through the leagues, there were certain people that were, you know, pulling his chain, edging him around from different places, and he was always having to pay money, but it never materialized. All these people were doing just taking his money all the time. And when he saw what I was going through in football, he was seeing the politics. He was seeing the things that were going on, not just with me, but my counterparts. And just looking at our area and where we grew up from, just looking at the recruiting side of it as well too, and how vacant there is as far as like football and collegiate sports here in the area of Jacksonville. It's not very popular. The only school that has a football program right now is Waters College. It's a black college, and they've been up and down. They're trying to get back right, but overall, that's the only sports program. You can only have so many kids on a team. So Where does that leave all these other kids that have nowhere to go, that have no one helping them out, not trying to teach them how to do these things correctly to get to these schools? Why don't we try and create our own program to help these kids and do it the right way so that they have a better understanding of how the college world actually works and how their own brand works and how they can become better on and off the field. So we decided to create this program because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to equip these kids with the actual tools they need to be better on and off the field. No, if football doesn't work out, basketball doesn't work out, at least you know how to manage yourself as a brand. You know how to be disciplined. You know how to work hard. You know what it is to have a routine day in and day out. Because what we've been seeing, a lot of these programs, there's no routine. There's nobody really showing them how to do it. And there's not a lot of top professionals that are coming to these programs to show these kids how to do it. So yeah, you go to college, but you're not really gaining anything from college. Like you said, at Last Chance U, yeah, it could be great, one or two schools that are powerhouses, but what happens to these kids realistically if they don't get the opportunity to go Division 1? What are you teaching them after that they can use as a life skill to help themselves get a job, be able to take care of their family, be able to take care of a kid if they have one, or their significant other? What does that look like? So really, it was able to create that, but also bring in the other entities of business that we do have. And I wrote a book, so I've been able to use my book as a lesson and a teaching tool for these kids. I've been able to bring former coaches that I play with and that I know that have experience too. It's not just about me, but
Mhm.
it's about them because all of us have different levels of professional playing experience to be able to bring back to these kids. So that's what we've been doing. That's what I've really concentrated on. That's what I put my mind on because I feel like I can cover more ground helping kids this way than just me going around and being a motivational speaker or putting on a camp. Those are they last a day or two, but
Yeah.
really ingrain what it is to be the best at your field, whatever you put your mind to. That's more long-standing than me coming in and talking to you for 30 minutes. I always say motivation is a spark, but your passion is your persistence. If you're very passionate about what you want to do, you wake up every single day to put action towards that because you know what the end goal is and you know it's going to be attained. It's just the stuff in between that you're on your process is where you really get tested to see if you really want it. So that's what we're doing for these kids because they've never been tested before. They've never been really pushed before. And that's what we want to do for them because we know they can become successful. We know they can elevate their game. We know they can be mentally stronger and become more mature just being in this program for, it's only been a year now, but we feel like the stuff that we've done, those kids are way better than they were when they were in high school or wherever their respective schools were.
So what type of players or type of kids do you look for? What's your target audience?
For us, our target really is the kids that have low GPAs, the kids that are not ready yet to, at least here in the state of Florida, are not ready to adventure past state lines, and kids that probably were underscouted and probably underutilized and need more time to develop before they can take that next step. So those are the kids we really try and go after because I feel like, look, at the end of the day, if you can coach a kid the right way, he will be a successful athlete. And I look at the Patriots, Bill Belichick and his staff, and I remember when I was getting scouted through the whole draft process, Coach Boyle was a defensive back coach that was there, and he came and worked me out. Belichick came and worked me out one day, and he was talking about who was on his staff. And he told me, we don't have any pro guys on our staff. We don't have guys that played football past high school on our staff. But we do have our guys that love coaching. They want to coach and they want to find ways to make guys the best that they can mentally. And I was just thinking, "Oh, that sounds so weird, but it works because when I got drafted to Miami and I played against the Patriots, I understood exactly who they were and why they were so good is because of the teaching. 'Cause they didn't have the best athletes. They
Yeah.
had Tom Brady as a quarterback. He's not the best athlete. He's not a Lamar Jackson, but guess what? He can see everything before everybody else does. Wes Welker isn't the biggest guy, but guess what? He's going for 1,000 yards and 100 receptions every single year. Julian Edelman, the same thing. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer too. So if you just look at it from that standpoint, as the type of players that they had, they weren't all world talent. It's just they were coached correctly. And I feel that's the same thing we can bring to the table. All our guys are not the most athletically developed, physically or mentally, but it is our job to get them there so that when they do go somewhere else, they play right away and they're impact players. And there's a stat that's very interesting. The number one conference that has junior college players come from his program is the SEC. And I didn't even know that. I thought the SEC was just always pumping out 5-star guys, but they're looking for guys that go to the junior colleges in Mississippi, the junior colleges in Iowa, Louisiana, in Texas. They're grabbing those guys from there because they know they can play right away. They know that they have that experience. They've been somewhat coached the correct way that they know when they come there, they know exactly what to do in the weight room. They know exactly what to do on the field. They know exactly what to do in practice and preparation. And that's the same thing we want to do. We want to be able to gift another school a player that is great in the classroom as well as on the field. So they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to go out outside of their realm and go and recruit somebody extra when it's right down here. Although we're just a phone call away. We'll tell you if we have guys, we'll tell you if we don't, we'll tell you which guys are good, which ones aren't. But at the end of the day, they're coached by guys that played in the NFL, played in the CFL, played in the AFL, guys that won championships before. So that's why we take pride in it. It's not just about the kids coming here and putting on the gear. You're really going to get coached when you come here.
That's great, man. I know it's gonna be hard too at that level because I mean a lot of these guys that you're gonna get were not disciplined. Otherwise, they would have had the grades or they would have been recruited, and now they're gonna come here. And I mean, how's that been for you? Because everybody doesn't have that same mindset where you see the big picture. I need to follow this blueprint. So how does that work for you?
Yeah, we have our struggles. We have people that don't believe it, which is, look, it's fine. Not everybody's gonna like you. You're gonna have people that, and it's funny. There are people that will criticize you just because you're doing it, and we're doing it. And there's other people that they probably thought about doing it, and wish they did it, but never had the gumption to do it. Now they see somebody else doing it, like, oh, I can do it better. Well, go ahead
Yeah,
and do it. That's the thing about it. So for us, it's we don't listen to people that doubt. We don't listen to naysayers because this wasn't something we just put up overnight. This is actually, if you look at it, it's been years of planning. And my brother and I, we were driving from Fort Lauderdale to Jacksonville uh, early last year. I think it was like January. And when we were talking about really pulling the trigger on this, we spent it was probably supposed to be only a 4-hour drive, turned it out to be a 6-hour drive because I was like, look, if we're gonna do this, man, let's make sure we know everything that's going to occur as far as like opposition. That way we know how to handle it. And sure enough, we went through every single situation that we knew was going to occur. And that was one of the things that came up was people not understanding this, not understanding who we are, what we're trying to do, and they were going to combat us. But the thing that we need to do is make sure our ducks are in a row because it's bigger than us. It's bigger than me just saying, "Hey, look, I'm an NFL guy. Come to my school." That's not about that. It's me saying, "Look, there are people that I've been through the same thing guys have been through. That I've been counted out. There have been politics involved. I've gotten the short end of the stick, but guess what? I kept going." And that's what I want you to understand too in life. Just because it gets hard doesn't mean you quit or you go and look for the easy route. You got to just push through. You got to keep working hard. You got to be persistent. You got to show up every single day. And when you do that, it's going to work out for you. And one of the best quotes I've probably heard to date so far was by Jason Witten. When I was playing with the Cowboys, he said this very important thing. He said the secret's in the dirt. And when he said it, I was kind of confused. Like, what do you mean? But I kind of knew where he was going. He said, look, every single day when you put your hand in the dirt, they're the only ones that know how much work you put in. Not your coach. You can fool your coaches. You can pretend and rah rah and do all that stuff, make plays in practice. But when you get in the game and you mess up, it's not. It doesn't. Practice doesn't matter at that point. The dirt is the only one that knows exactly how much you put into it. If you're staying later, if you're coming in early, if you're trying to step a certain way to get your craft perfected, the dirt knows every single secret that you're putting into it. So what you put in is what you're going to get out. But you're the only one between you and the dirt that knows exactly how much work you put in. And when he described that to me, I said it makes perfect sense. And that's why he played as long as he did. I think he almost played, 16, 17 years. He's a Pro Bowl perennial guy for like 15 of those years. So obviously he knows what he's talking about. And when he said that, it's the truth. The, it's all comes down to hard work, man. You have to work your butt off if you want to be successful. Because ain't nobody in this world is going to hand you a thing. Like nobody's going to come and save you. There's not going to be a school that miraculously just says, "Oh, look, we got an extra scholarship. Let's offer this guy that's been sitting on his couch praying for an opportunity." You got to go out and get it. You can't be sitting around and have a pity party for yourself and trying to talk to a whole bunch of people because you're miserable about the work that you didn't put in. You just got to put it in, not worry about anything else, and the results will always speak for itself. I can attest to that because I've been through some stuff, man. And the one thing I do know that was consistent is I just continued to work. I continued to show up, and it all worked out for me.
All right. Last thing, I'm gonna let you go. I don't want to take all your time. Um, your greatest memory from high school, college, or NFL. Um, if there's anybody that you locked up against that you remember, or if you got burnt and you don't want to share it, you can share that. And then I want you to go back and say to all the kids and the parents one or two things that you might have done differently through the whole process.
Yeah. Well, for one, the I don't live with regrets. Everything was supposed to happen. I would only say the one thing that I wish I would have done better was not beat myself up as much because I always felt like if I beat myself up more, I was going to overcome it better, and that was not the case. You have to lift yourself up, especially the position I was playing. I have to be confident all the time, and there were times where I always wanted it perfect. My steps to my hand placement to the completion of the play, I wanted my coach to say that's a good rep. And I would always critique myself harder than my coaches and my peers because I wanted to be so perfect that in turn it was a negative effect because if I didn't get it perfect, I'd get down on myself, even though it looked great, and I have my peers that would come and tell me what I'm doing on film looks great. So that'd just be one thing. But I think at the same time, it ended up helping me more because I was able to overcome. I had to work myself through it to be able to understand, all right, this is good. You made a great play. But I couldn't even one memory, I honestly, is not one because I played against so many great guys. Like I just thinking about it now, I shared a locker with Darren Sproles. I shared locker rooms with Jason Taylor, Ricky Williams. I shared locker rooms with Dak Prescott, Jason Witten, Dez Bryant. These guys were my teammates. I'm looking across and Tom Brady's staring right at me. Drew Brees staring right at me. Brett Favre staring right at me. I'm lining up. I see Randy Moss. I'm lining up. I see Julio Jones. Like those are the things I take away from is the fact that these people that everybody see on TV, I got to go toe to toe with them. I had to prepare for them. I had to see how they stood. I had to see how they ran routes. I had to always know what they were going to do before they did it. And I was going against some of the top guys that, years later, you'll be able to talk about them as the greats. And I can honestly, pridefully say, look, I was able to defend these guys and I was able to defend them. And as my son gets older, I'm able to now recall more football stories. And I wasn't like that before because I didn't want my son to play. And it's funny, it's ironic because my mom didn't want me to play and I don't want my son to play, but now I'm probably going to end up letting him play. But when he asks me questions now, it's one of those things where I just pull up a memory and it's more what was I feeling than the actual memory. And I explain it to him that way because he's looking at when I have pick sixes and he's looking at when I strap people. But honestly, I let him know from the emotional standpoint what the ambiance of the field was, what it was to hear the call. I'll explain those things to him more than the actual play because that's what it entails. That's what it takes if you want to be great. It's not just about making the plays and being on sports center. I've done that countless times, but it's about understanding and being aware of your surroundings in the moment and being live. That's what I really remember about my football playing career was always being in the moment and understanding what the moment entailed and who I was going against.
Awesome. Hey man, great stuff. I appreciate it. I'm gonna put this on YouTube, and how can people find you and find your program?
Yeah, well, they can go on jacksonvilleathleticacademy.org. They can go on there and look. We have everything up on there from the application. If kids want to submit their application, got to just make sure you have your transcripts, make sure we know your parents' information, your coach's information, your huddle. You can find me on Carroll IG at Carroll City. You can find me on Twitter at Carroll City. I kind of keep it consistent across the board. I also have a podcast, Conversation with Carroll. You can go on there too. It's more of understanding the mindset from other people that are not athletes, and I think if you hear something from somebody else's perspective, you're able to grab more from it because it's relatable when you hear something that kind of triggers your mind that pertains to sports, but it's done from somebody that has never put on a football helmet. And I think experience is the best teacher, and the more you can find people that have been through experiences and have overcome it, that just makes you a better person and be able to pass that information on to somebody else.